Once that album drops and does its thing, what was the feedback like? What was the reviews and magazines saying? What was the overall reception for Many Faces?
Mixed emotions. I mean, mixed emotions. It was a mixed bag of review. And I'm gonna say at the time it was because again, I came out of nowhere. Like nobody knew who I was. And the reason why I'm saying this now is because when I look at how people respond to it today, as opposed to back then, it's like night and day. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like, yo, this is the most from a lot of people. This is the most conceptual. I've never heard of an album like this before. You got five personalities on the album, and you're using different voices. And oh my God, I mean, it's just a mixed bag of party and story and MCing and all it. Like you know what I'm saying, radio records, and it's you know it wasn't like that back then because back then they was trying to figure out who I was. A lot of people thought I was schizophrenic because I had five personalities on the record. You know what I'm saying? Or at least putting it out there like that. A lot of people was like, nah, man, you need to just stay in one lane. You know what I'm saying? And I took the bait on that on the second album that I did under Universal that never got released called Live from the 215. You know, I heard all of that. So the second album was like, all right, I'm just going straight street with it. You know what I'm saying? Which was the wrong move. I'm listening to the outside noise. But Many Faces, it just caught people by it caught people by surprise. And then not only that, the timing of the release was was off too because that's when we lost my brother. We lost the late great Notorious B.I.D. So B.I.G. Excuse me, Notorious B.I.G. And so when his album dropped, I dropped in between Life After Death and Wu Tang Forever. Come on, man. Everybody's gonna get lost in between that time. Think about what I'm saying. Life After Death and Wu Tang Forever. You got Many Faces.
Mm.
You're not checking for Trey Lee and Many Faces if you got Life After Death and Wu Tang Forever. Come on, man.
Two
That
double.
wasn't right. And you talking about, to some people, one of the greatest groups of all time. And I ain't just talking about hip hop. We talking about in all genres. You know what I'm saying? The Wu Tang Clan and the late great Notorious B.I.G. And then you have Tracey Lee. Who you checking for? You know what I'm saying? With no setup, mind you. You
Right.
still don't know who I am. So, you know, it is what it is, man. And I look at that, in hindsight, you know what I mean? Because like we discussed earlier, my thing was I just want to get heard. You know what I'm saying? Well, you get your record out there, you get heard, but then you learn the setup ain't right. You know what I'm saying? The follow-up record ain't right. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of things that come into play. You know, your your affiliation, you know what I'm saying, to certain things and all of that aren't being maximized. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of nuances in this game that I picked up on later on. You know what I mean? But to answer your question, it was a mixed bag. You know what I mean?
Were you able to tour off that project?
Nope, we were headed on tour with the late great, and because of his untimely demise, that I was supposed to open up for the Life After Death tour. You know what I'm saying? I was on that bill. So that was another opportunity for people to hear the album and know who Tracey Lee is. Never materialized. You know what I'm saying?
Once that album does its thing, you're ready for your sophomore album, and you say you're listening to, the outside forces that be, trying to tell you what direction to go in. How come the album was shelved?
You tell me. I, okay. I got my theory. So um at the time, By Storm gets a deal at LaFace. So the concentration, the people in the building are not there anymore. Universal decides to keep me. I couldn't go with LaFace. At least that's what was told. So me and D Dot, we put together a dope album. Now let's not get it twisted. Again, the sonically is dope. The rhymes are in place. I didn't exercise the the flexibility. I didn't exercise my what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't. I wasn't as, again. I told you I stayed in one lane.
Versatile.
I didn't exercise the versatility. Thank you. I didn't exercise the versatility that I exercised in many faces. But sonically, it was crazy. Beats is create a rhyme. Of course, the MCmanship is still there. Um, but Boston had left, and then you usher in Nelly. You know what I'm saying? The St. Lunatics up in Universal. You usher in Cash Money. You know what I'm saying? So the concentration up in Universal is on them. I don't have a voice in the building, and they coming in like a wildfire. You know what I'm saying? So again, we get lost in the shuffle. And because of that, after they gave us the budget to make the album, you know what I'm saying? We put out a mixtape sampler. Shout out to the late great K Slay, you know what I'm saying, who always looked out, who all even to the day he passed, he always looked out for me. So salute to him and his family. But we put out a mixtape sampler. You know what I mean? We went on the road with who did we go on the road with to try to try to push the album. We went out on the road. It'll come to me in a second. And then, next thing we know, we come off the road and they say, yeah, your services are no longer needed. And so, I attribute that to the fact that to those things that that I just brought up previously. Um, and because of that, even they had put out advertisement in the trade magazines and all that stuff, man. It was on the way. It was done. It was complete. It was mixed. It was mastered. I still got the mastered album in here. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so we get dropped in January 2001. You know what I mean?
Where did Tracey Lee find herself at this point? Is this the point you think about going back to school?
Well, not initially. Not initially. Just I'm kind of stunned a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Because again, we talking about from 1986 to 2001, I was fulfilling my dream. You know what I'm saying? So these are 15 years that now comes to a halt. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, damn, we back at square one for real. You know what I mean? So initially, we had to figure it out. Of course, we running out of money. I did a good job saving, but eventually when you it doesn't recycle, you know what I'm saying, then you eventually run out. So I like to tell this story all the time. I get down to my last $7. I'm gonna continue to tell this story because this is how strong my faith is even to this day. We get down to our last $7. I can either go get a meal or, this is where I ran out of ideas. I ran out of, all the things that I could think about doing moving forward. So, I go to church and I put it in the plate and I give it to God. That was like, symbolic, if you will. It was a token. You know what I'm saying? It was a test. You know what I mean? Like, look, take everything I got. This is all I got left. Figure it out, man, because I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? And so a week later, I get a call from Wayne Barrow. I mentioned him earlier. And he says, yeah, man, Universal has a check for you, but they don't have an address on file. So, call this number, give me your address, they'll send you the check. I said, all right, cool. So I do that. A week after that phone call, I get a check in the mail for $7,000. Wow. Week after that, I get another check for $57,000. So then that's when, I say to myself, well, damn, again, I tell people, like, I don't know, what people's beliefs are, but nobody can tell me, saying that the God I serve is not real. You know what I'm saying? And it's all time. So we took that money, we paid off some undergraduate tuition things that I had to take care of after I graduated, the student loans. And so we got some money left over. And so now, we got to start mapping this thing out. What we doing next? And that's when, it kind of dawned on me, you know what I mean? After praying, look, we went through some trials and tribulations during this process. You seen a lot of things. You seen what was right about it, and you saw what was wrong about it. So, you know, not learn it from the other side of the game, or at least put yourself in a position on the other side of the game and go to law school.
Mm.
Now, mind you, I had been out of school for 10 years, or at least I graduated from college in 92. So we talking 2002 when we talking about going back to school. Never choose to go back to school, but that was the first. I just say all that to say that was the furthest thing from my mind. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, the group that we went on the road with, the name was Ram Squad. They out of Philly too. Shout out to the late Tommy Hill. But we went out on the road with them during that time we were trying to promote Live from the 215. I knew it would come back to me. But now, fast forward, we decided to go to law school. So I started studying for the LSAT. You know what I mean? I take the test. I got a good enough score to get into Southern University Law Center. See, I keep it HBCU. Shout out to my people in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You dig? So go down there for law school. 2003, I entered as a 3-year program. Graduated in 2006 with a JD. Passed the bar in 2007. I've been a licensed attorney for the last 18 years.
Wow.
Entertainment law.
Talk a little bit about some of the clients and your experiences.
Oh man, we've represented the likes of Solange Knowles, Kelly Rowland, Benita represented the late great Kobe Bryant, Eric Roberson, Algebra Blessed, Young Guru, my brother, engineer, DJ for Jay-Z. Yeah. So those are some of the people that you would know. And then, I'm more proud of being able to educate a lot of these cats that's coming up in the game to give them the knowledge that I never had. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, sometimes to a fault, I give away the jewels. Not let me not say to a fault. That's the wrong. I want to give away the jewels. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want people to continue to put themselves in a position that a lot of artists have put themselves in. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to, your signing the correct type of deals and your financing and all that other kind of stuff, I'd rather give away the jewel than see falter. Now, once you get the jewel, it's up to you to do what it is that you need to do in order to put yourself in a better position. But I don't want you to put yourself in a bad position for the lack of knowing, you know what I'm saying, for the lack of knowledge. So it's incumbent upon me to disperse that knowledge. You know what I mean?
At what point do you decide to get back into music, and what, drove you, within to say, hey, I want to pick the mic back up?
Hey, look, I never put the mic down. See, that's what I want people to understand. Even while I was going through law school, even when I wasn't signed to a record deal, you know what I'm saying, on a major label and all that kind of stuff, I continued to move the pen. I continued to record. I continued to, think about, like, I never stopped doing music like that. That's always going to be in my veins. That's my love. You know what I'm saying? Between music and sports, I'll never stop doing that. So, and it's funny because even with this new record, The Pivot, I find, on some of the comments on the videos, like, yo, Trey Lee is back. Trey Lee is back. I don't know if they're saying that, literally or figuratively or whatever, but I'm thinking to myself, well, you got to catching up to do. Because if you go to TraceyLeeMusic.com, I got about 6 albums out there that you probably, well, at least 5 that you probably didn't know about. You know what I mean? But that's cool. Better late than never. I love it. You know what I mean? But we never stop. We never stop.
Right. You mentioned approximately 5 albums on that website. Talk a little bit about the reception you've received over the years and some of the feedback.
Look, I thank God every day that I kept pushing the pen because, to a lot of people, it feels like them that I'm getting better and better with each rhyme, and I've been doing this, like we did the math, 30 years on a commercial level or commercial independent level, and then another 10 before cats even knew who I was. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a testament to, me being persistent and loving what I do. You know what I mean? So the reception for every time that I come out with something is always received as like I'm not supposed to be doing it at this level at this age and at this time. And I love it. You know what I'm saying? Like I like surprising you. I like, the look on your face when you be like, damn, he's still doing it like that. You know what I mean? So, needless to say, the reception has always been warm. As long as I continue to do my job, you know what I'm saying? And I don't take it for granted. You know what I mean? But I'm always a firm believer of if you don't exercise what you got, you lose it. So I try to continue to exercise it every time I can.
Right. You have a new single out called "The Pivot." Talk a little bit about
Yeah.
the concept and everything that goes into that song.
So throughout this whole interview, what is the common theme? I've been pivoting the whole time. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody, especially being black in America, you have to pivot. You're gonna pivot several times in your life. You know what I'm saying? And so that's really what the song, because the song was really me exercising at first. It's turning into something else, and this is all God to me. But it was me exercising, you know what I'm saying? When we started talking about pushing the pen and keeping it sharp and all that, that's what it was. But it was also me getting some things off my brain and off my heart and all that other stuff, from what I'm seeing going on in front of me, or in front of us, you know what I'm saying, in real time. And so I felt like in a lot of records I've done over the several years, I haven't really, at least with the energy that I came with on this particular record, I haven't done that. You know what I'm saying? And I've tinkered with it. I've, put one foot in, one foot out, but I didn't go in 100%. And I feel like on this particular record, I did. You know what I'm saying? With not only the words, but with the energy, but with the aggression, with the tone. Shout out to old Jizz, aka the Mighty O, who put his foot in that track. You know what I'm saying? And he put his foot in it in a way that he allowed for the words to be, but still kept the beat knocking. You know what I'm saying? Still kept the guitar knocking. Shout out to Barry White with the old Negro spiritual classic sample. Do, 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 do. You can't go wrong with that joint. You know what I mean? And that's one of my favorite samples right there. So, but again, the pivot is about us. You know what I'm saying? Like every time you wake up, you gotta pivot. Something's gonna happen in your life where you have to figure it out and what you gonna do. You know what I'm saying? With all the stuff that's going on in the world right now, you know what I mean? We're in a serious time of pivoting. You better figure it out. You dig me?
Right. What has the reception been like so far?
Like I told you, man, it's taking a life of its own, man. It's like, you know, uh, again, from an ego perspective, I knew I bodied it, but I didn't think, it's people that have heard records that I've done all the records that I've done in my life, or at least 90% of the records that I've done in my life, and they're telling me, and these are some of my oldest friends, family members, all that. This is probably the best joint I've heard you do. And I'm like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me out of all, I got like over 300, 400 records, this is the best you've ever, like I'm trying to tell you, Trey, like I said, I don't know what it is and I'm not going to argue with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even going to try to defend it. You know what I mean? I'm going to just let it be what it's going to be. But to hear that, it's amazing, man. It's amazing. I can't even front. It's amazing. So it's giving me the energy and the boost to be like, yo, Trey, you ain't stopping no time soon. Like you can't, you know what I mean? So yeah, reception been crazy.
Whole project in the works?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I could do a couple more one-offs. It could be an EP, could be a couple EPs, could be a full. I don't know, man. I'm in a good space, man. I'm having fun with it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel free because I feel like, a lot of the things that I'm about to do, a lot of things I'm about to write about, is going it's going to I feel like not allowed, but I feel like I don't care. Like I'm gonna be a voice. I'm gonna be a voice for a lot of us. You dig what I mean? I don't know how many, but it's gonna be a lot of us that understand where I'm coming from and gonna feel where I'm coming from. Because I'm speaking, with you and for us, you know what I'm saying, in these times. I think these times are dictating a lot of things. You know what I mean? Music is indicative of the times that we're in at all times. You dig me? And I think some of the best music is about to drop right about now because of the climate, you know? So I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Any other avenues outside of music Tracey Lee is looking to explore?
Absolutely, man. I think I'm so glad you asked because we have a couple of podcasts about the drop. We got Talk That Talk with Tracey Lee. You know what I'm saying? If you go on my socials and all that, you can see I've been advertising little clips, you know what I'm saying, just gearing you up for what the subject matter is going to be, what giving you a feel of what it's going to be about. Again, going back to I'm excited about using my voice, you know what I'm saying? And so that is really going to be and just to give you a sneak peek or a glimpse of what it's going to be about with regards to using my voice. We're going to talk about the business from a legal perspective, but we also going to tackle a lot of social issues, you know what I'm saying, especially being black in America. Like, I love my people, and I think right about now is when we need to galvanize, you know what I mean. If no other time in your life, right now you need to galvanize with your family. You need to galvanize with your peoples, with the people that you trust and respect the most. And you need to come up with a game plan, man. You need to come up with a game plan of how we together can move forward. You know what I'm saying? So that's Talk That Talk. And then I also got another podcast called Let It Rock with my brother, DJ Blinks. And that's gonna be strictly about music. Strictly about music, the history of music, black music, that is. Like, I'm all black, man. So black music we talking. We talking about jazz. We talking about, the inception of rock and roll. We talking about hip hop, of course. We talking about gospel. We talking about R&B. We talking about soul, blues, you know what I mean? But we're gonna dive into records that, you forgot about. We're gonna dive into some of the classics and talk about the lyrical content. Talk about the breakdown of the record. Like, try to get more insight than you probably know about these records, you know what I'm saying, that played a part in why these records came to be what they are. You know what I mean? We're going to break new music, you know what I'm saying? And eventually we're going to start having guests on and, let them voice their opinions about certain things like that. But it's going to be strictly about the music, black music, and that's called Let It Rock. So stay tuned for both of those podcasts, man. I'm excited about it, man.
You have dates on when those dropping?
I wish I could tell you. We're this close. I think what's gonna happen is it's just gonna pop up, and y'all gonna, just like I started doing with these clips. They just popped out of nowhere, and people like, "Yo, what is that? What is that?" So I like the element of surprise, just like I did with this record. That record, the pivot. I didn't have an announcement, didn't drop no dates. It just popped up. So I think that's what's going to happen with this podcast. We this close. I can tell you that. We this close. I could tell you probably in the next 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks.
Okay.
We real close. We real close.
The single "The Pivot" is out now on digital streaming platforms as well.
Nope. It's only out on YouTube.
Okay.
Only out on YouTube for right now, but there's some things in the works where you're gonna start hearing it in more places. This is a part of. I'm trying something. This is a part of a strategy here. We got the lyric video and we got the regular video out on YouTube right now, so you can go to youtube.com/left TV. That's LLEFT TV. Please subscribe, because that's also a place that you're going to be able to go see, the new podcast, Let It Rock and Talk That Talk with Tracey Lee. So please subscribe to Left TV, LLEFT TV on YouTube. All right. And then if you want the new music, if you want the old music, or should I say the music that you have not heard, the 6 albums we were talking about earlier, you can go to TraceyLeeMusic.com. The whole collection is there.
Right. Where does Tracey Lee see himself fitting in hip hop as we move forward in the future?
Using my voice, man, a lot more. That's the goal. That's the premise. That's the aim. That and to lead these children, lead these kids, lead these youngins into the future. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we're getting older, and that's fine. We're supposed to. It's a part of evolution. But we have to equip these youngins. You know what I'm saying? Like they've been trying to put a wedge in between the old school and the new school and the young bucks and the old heads and all that. Now's not the time for that, man. The OGs, man, we got to be responsible and grab these kids, man, and the kids, like, they got to show us the way of the future too. Like, we have to be reciprocal with these conversations, but understand we are the ones with the wisdom. They don't know what's coming. They got the energy to push it forward, but they don't know what's coming. We seen it. We seen it 10 times over. Comes in different forms, but it's the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I say see me, moving forward, being in the forefront of that leadership, grabbing these youngins, schooling them, you know what I'm saying, learning at the same time and pushing the culture forward, you know what I'm saying, with that.
Tracey Lee, I want to thank you for everything you've done for the culture. Thank you for sharing your story, your upcoming podcast, the new single. Before we get out of here, any last words for the supporters that have been with you since day one and the new supporters that you found on your way, moving into the future?
Nah, man. Look, thank you for inviting me to your platform. Thank everybody that's been rocking with me since its inception and everybody that's coming with me on this journey in the future. And remember, subscribe. YouTube.com, Left TV, LLEFT TV. That's where the information is going to come from, man. So, I may put a couple of clips on IG, TikTok, and all that, but you're not going to get the full meal unless you subscribe to the channel, Left TV. You dig? And TraceyLeeMusic.com for all the music.
What about your social media?
You can go to IG, that's Tracey Lee ESQ. You can go to TikTok, that's Tracey Lee ESQ. You can go to Facebook, which is simply Tracey Lee. I don't rock with X, you know what I mean? Where else am I at? Those are the primary sources right now. But I gotta stress, Left TV, LLEFT TV. That's where we rocking out henceforth. So you make sure y'all subscribe, man.
No doubt. That is the one and only Tracey Lee. I'm the Young Sin-seer. This has been History Lessons, and a very great one at that. Thank you so much, Tracey Lee.
Nah, thank you for having me, man. God bless y'all, man.
You too. Peace.
Peace.